Hello, Gold Derbyites. Welcome to another episode of Awards Magnet. I'm Deputy Editor Ethan Alter, and I'm here with our Editor-in-Chief, Debra Birnbaum, and our Senior Editor, Mia McNiece. Welcome both.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us.
Absolutely. No, it's great. We did an emergency Emmy pod earlier in the week because we were through the Emmy gauntlet, and now it's time to catch up with all the film festival news as well, because we've survived the film festival gauntlet. Congratulations to both of you. We made it.
Did we survive? I'm not sure.
Maybe we're running on fumes a little bit, but we have a little bit of a break before New York kicks off the next wave of festival madness. But it seemed like a good time to sort of recap where we stand now in the film festival season. Deborah, you were in Telluride, obviously. I got to go to Toronto, and Mia, you've been monitoring everything from afar, keeping everyone abreast on all the big premieres and news and things. So between the three of us, we've had this trio of festivals covered. But definitely one of the big things we want to talk about is what's sort of been surging out of these festivals. So I think it's fair to say that the big top line surge has to go to Hamnet, which blew out of Telluride, wowed everyone. Deborah, you were one of the first people to see it there and loved it from the get-go, and then it went on to Toronto, where it won the People's Choice Award. So I think right now it's fair to say that's the one that's benefited most from this first wave of festivals.
Absolutely. And I'm so afraid to keep hyping it because I keep saying it's September and it scares me that this film has to make it all the way to March. I love it so much. I love the book and I was worried about the film going into it, but it couldn't have played better at Telluride. And I'm so glad to see the reception. It's just, the book was so perfect and the movie is perfect in its own right. Chloe Zhao did a great job directing it. And I defy anyone to beat Jessie Buckley's performance. So this is definitely the film to beat, coming out of the festivals. It couldn't have done better. What do you all think too?
Yeah, no, it certainly had a lot to live up to at Toronto. I mean, going into it, I had your praise echoing in my ear. I knew how well it was received there, and I think Chloe Zhao made sure to sort of set expectations as best she could for the audience. I remember at the premiere in Toronto, she did something really interesting, which was she had the audience sort of do a meditation exercise beforehand. She sort of led, and this big Roy Thompson Hall, it was a huge theater, lots of people packed in, and she took the time off the top to do like a 10-minute meditation and just really guided people through it and let them emotionally prepare themselves for what was to come. And I think that was a really a nice way to do it. And I think it set the stage for a movie that really does move you and really does demand a lot of you emotionally.
Yeah, she did the same thing at Telluride. And I definitely, Mia, when you see it, I highly recommend that you do this for yourself because you're going to need that deep breathing. And I don't want to scare people off this film. I don't want you to think, I think there are a lot of people I'm terrified of it because I keep talking about how much I cry. I cry in everything, so as we know. But Mia, just bring your handkerchiefs, bring your tissues. But it's an emotional experience, but it's worth the journey.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this and now heading into the New York Film Festival, though. You guys have set the bar so high that I'm a little bit, it'll be interesting to see now that I have such high expectations, but I think this is my jam and I'm pretty sure I will, pretty confident I will like it as well.
The only question we keep debating is, does Paul Mescal go lead or supporting for this? And I think, it's really just a question. It's very much a two-hander. It's about their relationship. As everyone knows, they're dealing with the death of their son and how they handle it. It's just a question. It's a two-hander. I mean, Jessie is definitely lead. There's no question about that. As I just joked to Mia, maybe the question is he's best supporting actor or least supportive husband?
That's it's interesting because he's my one question mark. I think he's quite good. I think he's good in the film, but I don't know if his performance necessarily is as certainly as dynamic as Jessie Buckley's is, where she carries so much and shoulders so much of the grief of the film, and as a result, I think he sort of takes a background role by necessity. So that's my one question mark. I'm not sure if he steps up to deliver as much as she does, but at the same time, the film is the sort of success and popularity around the film already. I think he gets swept along with it and end up in supporting actor for sure. Is sort of where
the more I think about it, I think supporting actor makes more sense for him, and I sort of think it does fit with the narrative of the film. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, Focus has a strategic decision to make there, and he's also in History of Sound, which I really think was a really strong performance for him, and obviously he's lead in that one. So if he's going to go lead for History of Sound and he goes supporting this, there's a perfect 1-2 punch.
And certainly, Chloe Zhao seems set to repeat as a Best Director nominee. She won previously for Nomadland, which was also a People's Choice winner at Toronto during the virtual edition in 2020. So I think the precedent's there for clearly, and it's just a great film for her. I was saying, I think when I came out, it's one of those movies I don't realize how immersed I was in the film until I left the theater, came out of the auditorium, out of Roy Thompson Hall, stepped back into the sunlight of Toronto. I was like, oh wow, no, I'm in 21st century Canada. I was so
exactly.
immersed in 17th century England at that point for 2 hours.
For sure. I mean, this is really a directing film, absolutely. And I think the directors, branch will definitely endorse this one.
Right, absolutely. The other big movie coming out of Toronto that I don't think people saw coming was Nuremberg, which I sort of slipped in under the radar in the festival. I actually didn't even get a chance to see it there. I was seeing other things when it premiered, but it got a 4-minute standing ovation that made all the headlines, and suddenly that seemed to propel it into the Oscar conversation. Both of you have seen the film. How do you feel about it coming out? Do you think that the hype is real?
I just saw it yesterday, and I'm still processing it. It's a tough film. I don't think there's any secret given my name that I'm Jewish. So it's, I've seen a lot of Holocaust films. It's a tough film to sit through. It's hard. It's really hard. There's a lot of Holocaust footage in it. It feels a lot like a history lesson. They stop and this is what the Nuremberg laws were. So I think there's a certain element of it that feels like, okay, we're going to take you through a piece of history, and there's a lot that's really resonant. And I think, without getting too political, let's just say that there's a lot that feels timely right now in terms of like what's happening in our country and what the film is talking about. So I think there are going to be people who are really going to respond to this, and it's got like 2 centerpiece performances. And as we broke the news this week, Rami Malek and Russell Crowe are both going lead. So it's definitely these two going head to head. So I think there's a lot for voters to chew on this one. Mia, what do you think?
I agree with a lot of that. I mean, I think the concept for the film is fascinating, that the world came together. They're risking putting these Nazis on the stand because it's going to give them a platform, once again, and it could go either way, but then they felt it was so important to do so. So you have this idea that actually really happened, that it's a fascinating one. But like Debra said, there were times where I thought they were spelling it out for us too much. Like, this is what happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Whereas you want it to feel more like a movie, get really emotionally drawn in. And then you're also, they're trying to make you feel a little sympathetic for a Nazi who was horrific, right? So that is her. But, at the end of the day, that is actually the point, right? That the Nazis are people and that this could happen again. So I understand that the bigger message of that is that, yeah, he had a daughter and he had a wife and, he made jokes and this and that. And like, that's what is terrifying, right? That this could happen again, and these are, actual humans. So yeah, but I did think, there was a little bit too much kind of holding our hand through it, laying it out for us. And like Debra said, the Holocaust footage was horrendous and really difficult to watch. But the performances were great, and like I said, very interesting, story to begin with.
And this is what I would say. I mean, I think, the conversation that I think we've all been having is that, and I know we'll get into this, like the top 5 contenders in the Best Picture race really do feel locked. Like those feel really clear. There's Hamnet, The Sentimental Value, there's Sinners, and One Battle After Another, which interestingly did not play any of the festivals and has emerged as one of the top contenders. But there's still 5 other slots. So there's a lot of conversation to happen there. So it's really going to be interesting to see. And there's a lot of noise attached to all of those films, what films go in there. And again, as I'm going to keep saying, it's still the middle of September and we've got 6 months to go. So there's like a lot of hype, a lot of campaigning to do. And I think what's really going to make the difference is campaigning. So how the studios behind these films campaign and message these films that got some momentum coming out of the festivals, and how they keep that momentum going for the next couple of months. That's really what's going to make the difference, I think.
It's interesting. One film that I wasn't sure how its Best Picture prospects would fare to your point was It Was Just an Accident, which is Jafar Panahi's film from Iran. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, which is always a good sign, especially recently. But Iranian cinema is challenging at the Oscars. It hasn't always gotten the recognition it deserves necessarily. So I was curious to see how this film would fare. And it played at Toronto. It's played at several festivals now. I think it did the full gamut of Venice, Telluride, and Toronto. And seeing it in Toronto, it really is, if any Iranian film can break through, it can be this one, because there is a very propulsive narrative to it. It's not quite a thriller, I would say, but it is very, it's engaging throughout. You are sort of on the edge of your seat throughout, wondering where this story is going to go. And then the final shot is fantastic. It brings it all together. I'm still thinking about film ends.
Mhm.
So I can very much see that as, to your point, the sort of final 5 slots are not quite locked. I think this has the real chance, especially with Neon behind it, which is very skilled at getting Palme d'Or winners into the Best Picture conversation. This seems to me like a very good shot to have Jafar Panahi recognized both for Best Picture and I think his first Best Director nod as well. I do think there's a strong case to be made for why he belongs in that 5 category.
Sure, never count out the international piece of the Motion Picture Academy. There's like 25% of the Academy are international voters. I think they're really going to get behind this film. It really has a message. It has something to say. And the other thing about the film is it's funny. Right. It's really, it's really surprisingly funny. Yep. Exactly. It's really, and in that, not in the like dark, absurdist humor kind of way, because I'm also all there for that. But there's something kind of like while they're going through this like insane experience, there's comedy happening too. So it's very watchable and poignant and political and timely. So I really think that we're going to be talking about a lot of international features as we go through the cycle. Sentimental Value, it was just an accident. No Other Choice. There are going to be a lot of films that are going to make up that top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And Panahi made sure to mention at his the post-screening Q&A, the post-premiere Q&A, he sort of credits the Iranian government, which imprisoned him before making this movie, for sort of inspiring the film. And that got a huge amount of applause. So I think the more they emphasize that this is inspired by his own experience, how brave he is to be making movies in a country that doesn't want to recognize his artistic achievement, it says a lot to his narrative as a director and could really help him get into the Best Director race for sure. The other breakout film on the Netflix side is House of Dynamite. And that didn't play at Toronto, but it is playing at New York coming up, and it played at Telluride as well. Played at Venice as well. So Mia, and you've definitely seen that. What's your feeling about the film? How do you think it's going to?
I think it's really deserving of that 5th spot. I mean, talk about political, timely, great acting. I thought it was fascinating. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I have no idea how Noah Oppenheimer knows all of that information.
I don't know how he sleeps at night.
I don't know how he sleeps at night either. I think he could be up for an Oscar as well. I just thought, obviously for directing, I just thought the whole thing really was fascinating, and also was able to get a little emotion out of me as well. I mean, they do tell some of the personal stories of the people dealing with this and what they're going through on their personal lives. But again, just you see the film from 3 different perspectives, all the same event, and it's just I thought I was really impressed by it. I really enjoyed this one.
I really agree. I think it's a masterclass of directing. Catherine Bigelow did a great job. I think we could see 2 women directors get nominated this year. Oh my God, perish the thought. But she absolutely deserves it. This is her at the at the top of her game. I think the fact that she's able to take these 3 pieces and you're never bored. You know exactly what's coming, and yet you're just absolutely still at the edge of your seat because she puts this narrative together really brilliantly. I think it works for editing. I think it works for directing. The score, like my heart is still pounding thinking about Volker Bertelmann's score. It really does a great job, and the ensemble is really strong. There's not a lead performance, but the ensemble knocks it out of the park. And I think in terms of casting, it's a great year to have that first casting award for the Oscars, and this definitely will be a contender there for sure.
Speaking of directing, one of the directing winners from the festival circuit was Benny Safdie for The Smashing Machine. And he came to Toronto with that film. They skipped Telluride. They're skipping New York. They're actually waiting now until it opens on October 3rd. So it's coming to theaters really soon. But it was interesting to see how Dwayne Johnson, who is really the sort of the main contender, I think is safe to say, from that film, having seen Toronto, he's the one everyone's talking about. He did try to acknowledge Safdie and say, like, he won Best Director. But I think watching in Toronto, watching the way he sort of courts the crowd, I think this is really the Dwayne Johnson show, and he sort of knows that, and the love that he got from the Toronto audiences helps fuel that campaign for sure. I think if there's any sense of or any doubt about whether or not he's a legitimate player, I think that sort of seeing him in front of that audience, working the crowd, sort of confirmed for me, oh no, he wants this, he's going to pursue this, and I think he's most likely going to get what he wants, which is an Oscar nomination. We'll see about a statuette, but.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the acting race is going to come down to campaigning because it's wide open. I think we went into the season looking at all those names for Best Actor, going, "Oh my God, this, it's stacked," and it is still stacked. But I think the difference is going to come down to campaigning. And Dwayne Johnson has shown that he's willing to work for it. And if you're willing to work for it, that makes the difference. Voters want to see people who want it. You can't be too sweaty, but you also have to show that you work it. And he's been out there, and so I think that's going to really propel him into this conversation.
Yeah, he's been really good too about, just discussing the transformation and the emotional and the physical and really discussing what went into the role. Although I did notice a lot of, in the reviews, a lot of critics did point out they would have liked more Emily Blunt in it. And they were sad that she wasn't. But like you said, Ethan, it really is his movie and his time.
Yeah. If anything, I think he relied on Emily Blunt because they're such close friends off screen, and that made clear in their interactions at Toronto. I think he felt more comfortable working with her, helping him in this performance, a kind of performance he hasn't necessarily given before. So yeah, I think having the sort of base of friendship, someone he trusted in his corner, helped him a lot to shape this character.
And we did just report this week that she's going supporting actress. So I think that solidified and explained that kind of relationship and where that's going to go going forward. And she's definitely a contender in that race.
Right. Yes, absolutely. No, I think the performance-wise, as a film, I don't see it really necessarily breaking through some of the other races, but I think acting, certainly Best Actor, and definitely a chance for Best Supporting Actress based on that, depending on how they emphasize that relationship. I think that the nature of their friendship, I think, could really play into the narrative very nicely for both of them. Well, let's talk a little bit about the films that maybe are a little static now coming out of the festivals, because some take off, some sort of linger and have a hard time finding their place. I think for me, the one that comes to mind is Frankenstein, which played all three festivals. It's Netflix. It was Netflix's big, I think, fair to say, Oscar hopeful with Guillermo del Toro behind it. He's won before for Shape of Water. It's a movie he's wanted to make forever. So there's the passion project element, and it's it did well in Toronto. It placed second in the People's Choice Awards, so that's a sign that people responded to it. But there was something about it that didn't quite click. I think all of us, at least in my audience, there's that feeling that we wanted something that we didn't quite get from it, and so I wonder where it goes from here. How are they going to manage it up until its release in November and December? Deborah, I know you've seen it. How do you feel about where it stands?
Yeah, it was the same thing in Telluride. It was the sneak surprise screening. They played it at night, and I think that was tough for a 2.5 hour long film. So I think it was late, and and I think as much as there was excitement to see it, because there's always going to be excitement for Guillermo del Toro movie, 2.5 hours at 10 o'clock at night is a tough watch, and so I think that was hard for a lot of people. And so I don't think it got the sort of enthusiasm and burst that Netflix might have been hoping for. So I think that was one criticism I heard a lot. I think also it was just that, and this is one of the other criticisms I heard that always made me laugh is like, it's so true to the story. Well, of course it's true to the story. You can't really change Frankenstein. Like, what are you going to do? There's a lot of criticism about the CGI. Like, the wolves are very CGI, that the crafts weren't as, oh my God, Guillermo crafts is. But I mean, some of it is beautiful. Like, the costumes are beautiful. Like, they definitely take your breath away. So I think it's definitely a contender in the crafts categories. I just think that they were expecting like a bomb, a huge explosion out of the gate. Like, oh my God, here's Guillermo's next masterpiece. And I just don't think it landed with that kind of like wow factor that they were hoping for. So I think it's still a contender. I think it's still in the conversation. I just don't think it just got that momentum that they were hoping for.
Do you think Jacob Elordi is still in the conversation?
I think he can get into Best Supporting Actor. I mean, I think everything is wide open. Like, I don't think the movie didn't perform to that extent that he's totally out. I mean, I think one of the things I think that we're going to be talking a lot about as we go into this is like, can you get that one performance out of a film, and is that enough to keep it going? And I think there's enough to talk about in the film that Jacob does break out in that, he's big and he's hulking, and a lot of the crafts, the makeup and the prosthetics is attached to his character. So if he's going to get out there and work it, I think there's a chance for him to get into the conversation.
I would agree. I think the second part, because it's divided into three parts, and I do think the second part where he takes center stage is the strongest stuff in the movie. CGI will notwithstanding. I think
Yes.
once you see him in his full glory, once he's really driving the story, I think the movie really sort of fulfills some of the promise that we started out hoping. And Guillermo del Toro definitely emphasized he wanted to make it a movie about fathers and sons, and that's once you start to see the son journey, as it were, the monster's journey, that really snaps into focus, and it sets the stage for the final act, which I think brings it all together very nicely. But that first hour, especially, it's a lot, and I don't know that it feels like it could have been streamlined a little bit. And I think it takes a little while to find its footing.
Everyone needs an editor. I always say it. Everyone needs an editor.
Exactly. Even Guillermo del Toro.
Even Guillermo del Toro.
The other Netflix movie that seems to be a little static, I would say, I think, is Jay Kelly, which debuted at Venice, then played Telluride, skipped Toronto, but it's coming to New York, so we'll be able to catch up with it there. But it seems like reaction was fine, but not maybe what people are hoping for a movie that unites Noah Baumbach, George Clooney, and Adam Sandler, which is quite the combination. But yeah, it sounds like it didn't quite catch fire in the same way. Deborah, I know you've seen it, so
I think if you go into it expecting one of those biting satirical Noah Baumbach movies, you're not getting that. It's a different kind of Noah Baumbach movie. So you get that great ensemble, you get Laura Dern and Adam Sandler, all these great performances. And I think Adam Sandler is definitely the best supporting actor conversation. And of course, you get the star turn from George Clooney, but he's playing a version of George Clooney. So I think there's a version of this that gets into the best picture conversation because it's a movie about Hollywood, and what does Hollywood love anything more than celebrating Hollywood? So it's lovely, it's fun. It's just sort of like, Hollywood goes to Italy. It's like it's a traveling movie. Billy Crudup steals the scene that he's in. If you ever wanted to see Billy Crudup method act a menu, go watch it for that scene alone. It's hilarious. I actually was watching a little bit of the morning show last night, and just even seeing Billy Crudup again made me giggle because I was just remembering that scene. So it's not, it's a different Noah Baumbach movie. And I think it's just the disconnect between the two that I think took everyone off guard. But I do think it's still very much in the conversation. I still think it can get into the top 10. It's sort of that same thing of did it have that big burst that they were hoping for? No. Did it disappoint? A little bit, for sure. But I think there's very much still a campaign to be happened. Again, if Adam gets behind it, and be curious to see if, George gets into the conversation. But then again, I think that best actor race is stacked.
Talking to Billy last week about that scene, and he was saying how, interestingly enough, the morning show character kind of helped prepare him, give him the confidence. Playing that role kind of led to that scene in Jay Kelly, how they were all connected in a strange way.
No, that'll be one that you and I definitely watch in New York closely. It'll be very interesting to see how New York reacts to it, and if that gives it a second wind as we get closer to award season.
I think it'll play better in New York for some reason. I just think the New York audience will embrace it more than a sort of more cynical international audience, but we'll see.
And Mia, the other one we'll be watching certainly is After the Hunt, which really had, I think it's safe to say you were all over this. It had a big stumble, we'll qualify it. Well, it has stumble out of the gate in Venice, where I think it definitely was emerged as a divisive movie. You've seen it. You'll be seeing it again here in New York. What are you looking for? How do you hope do you think the narrative will change around it during this second?
Yeah, I'm curious how New York will take it. Like you said, it's a controversial movie. It covers a lot of different topics. But I think that I feel like the cast, they've been upfront about that. Like their takeaway from the press conference and everything is see, you're talking about it. That is the point. That is what we want. Because the film does not give you an answer, right? It's not it's letting you decide what's happening and what's going on and making your own decisions. So I think it does cause you to think. Like you said, I've seen it, but I'm going to see it again in New York to kind of retrace it, and there's things I had questions about and maybe I missed or didn't see it this way, and it's just one of those films. So yeah, it's controversial, but it's also getting people to talk about it.
I know every time we debated, someone in the, because we've been talking a lot about it in the office, and every critic screening I walk out of, we end up, as we work through the top 10 or the conversations, we always end up circling back to After the Hunt. It's getting talked about. So love it or hate it, and wherever people land, it is something that people keep getting talked about. I think one of the performances that people do keep talking about is Andrew Garfield. So we'll see where that one lands, because he does have certainly a pivotal, she says.
Yeah. I mean, they're all very messy, complicated characters, which is interesting. There's not, so it brings an interesting element to the overall film.
And certainly the best actress race is sort of wide open right now. So Julia Roberts, even if in a divisive movie, that could help in her favor. Again, to your point of people are talking about it, they'll see her portrayal. It's been a while since we've seen her in an Oscar conversation nominated movie. So I think that could help her as well as she sort of seeks another best actress nomination.
I just have to throw out, we didn't get to talk about Sentimental Value, which is one of my sentimental favorites. Yes. I have to keep making that. I'm going to keep throwing that line out. But when we talk about the best actress category, we have to put Renata in there, because I think that is such, I think that played really well at the festivals. I think that emerged as one of the strong favorites, and that's definitely going to be one of the international contenders as well. It's Norway's selection for the international feature race. Be interesting to see if that one breaks into the top 10.
Same with them. I mean, I'm curious to see. Yeah, I know the Springsteen "Deliver Me from Nowhere" played really well at Telluride, but when it comes to New York, I'm only imagine it's going to get a huge response.
Yeah, that's hometown crowd territory for sure.
Totally.
I'm really interested, and I put a question mark next to this when we were talking about different movies. I'm curious about Begonia's status right now. I mean, we know it did well at Venice. We know there's a lot of talk around Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons in particular, but I feel like it sort of chatter's fallen away a little bit from it since then. So where do we think it stands right now? Is it surging? Is it not? Where would you put that? I haven't seen it yet myself. I'm hopefully seeing it soon, but I'm curious that the status of that one is sort of has me interested.
Yeah, Ethan, I agree. I've seen the film, and I do think it's gotten a little quieter. And I don't know if maybe it's just going to rise again, and we're just in a little bit of a lull. But it seemed to be, the big thing and the talk, and coming out of the festivals, and now it's just kind of quieted down a little bit. So I'm curious to see how that is. I mean, Emma's performance is amazing, and same with Jesse. And if you just go with the film, it's a fun ride. But it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
I agree. And maybe it's not bad that it's gone quiet, because maybe it's like, in terms of, again, that long-term momentum question, like, keeping it going through the next 6 months, maybe that's what the film needs. It's a crazy Yorgos wild ride, and that's what you sign on for. And that's sort of the conversation, like, that I've been a part of, that people keep talking about. It's that, is it a surprise what ends up happening in the film? Maybe yes, maybe no. It's based on a film that people have seen, another format. So people are not so surprised about where the film ends up going. But you can't knock Jesse and Emma's performance. They leave nothing on the table. Like, it's all out there. They give it all to the film. So definitely they're going to be in the conversation.
It is interesting that they chose to skip New York. I thought if anything it would play here, because The Favorite played here. So certainly Yorgos is well loved in New York. So it's interesting to me that they decided to sort of jump over Toronto, New York, and go to I think their release. I don't know if they have any other festival stops planned. So that was a telling moment. I was curious to see, like, okay, do they feel confident enough to sort of, as you said, take the chess piece off the board for a little while and let people discover it and wait for that second wave?
I think the festival strategy is always such an interesting conversation, because it's like, it's hard to game plan it. It's hard to figure out, like, what's the best way to do. A lot of people are questioning, for example, Amazon's decision to take After the Hunt to Venice. It's got the star power of Julia Roberts, but, like, Monday morning quarterbacking is the favorite game in this town, and did it make sense to take the film there? Then there's also One Battle After Another, which skipped the festivals entirely, and now is at the top of everyone's charts because it played so well, it premiered so well, everyone's loving it. It's going to open, and it's getting incredible reviews, and it just was like, what, I don't need any festivals for this film. So there you go. And so that's another completely different style for releasing a film. And maybe that's enough. Maybe they just knew what they had and said, what, we don't need the buzz out of the festivals. We've got a film that's going to play like gangbusters. We've got a great director, we've got a strong cast, we've got great performances from Leo and Sean, we've got something really incredible that's going to blow everyone away and knock it out of the park. And so we're going to do it our own way.
Well, to that point, the other film that's sort of playing that strategy, moving into the things we haven't seen yet, but we'll down the pike, Marty Supreme. They're really A24 has really been holding on to that. That's currently only scheduled for a Christmas Day release. We haven't had a word of when it's going to sneak out before then. So it seems like they're following that playbook. Let's skip the festivals, let's get anticipation building, and then we'll drop it, and own the conversation at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like Debra keeps saying, it's September, right? So you've got to pace yourself. Like, yeah, and that's we'll see if that's, the right way to go.
And I love looking at our predictions charts where people have Marty Supreme on there. And I appreciate the confidence. I think it's great. Like, I love it, but it's sight unseen. We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of those films. We still haven't seen Avatar. We haven't seen Is This Thing On? We haven't seen Wicked for Good. And I love it because it gives us plenty to talk about. We've got lots of excitement. There are other things that we're still waiting to see. So there'll be plenty more for us to chew on. Of course, I'm impatient because I want to see all of these films, but we're running around town trying to see everything we can that's coming out now. But really excited to see Marty Supreme.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is This Thing On is closing the New York Film Festival, so we'll have a sense of it then. And Anemone is the other big premiere that New York Film Festival is launching. That's by the Daniel Day-Lewis's son. It features his return to acting after many years away. So those two are sort of final pieces of the puzzle. And in the case of This Thing On, there's Bradley Cooper at play. There's Will Arnett. So there's definitely places that they could go once people get their first look at those two. So that'll be interesting.
So everything you've seen before, what are your top three?
Ooh, my top three. Out of Toronto, the Hamnet was certainly up there. That seems to be sticking around. It was just an accident. Again, really jumped out at me. I think that has a real shot at multiple nominations. And then again, just sort of confirmed, not from so much from the movie, but Dwayne Johnson, the Smashing Machine, just confirmed that he is really he is in it to win it, as it were. So I think those were the three sort of awards themed takeaways I took away from my time in Toronto.
Well, my top is House of Dynamite. Yeah, I think that one's the top one that I've seen so far. And then I'm gonna say One Battle After Another. I just thought that was amazing too. And then for kind of just a weird wild ride, I'm gonna say Bagonia. But again, there are definitely some things on the list I still have to get to, so that could change.
Well, I have four. I know. I was like, why did I pick three? Because I really have four. No surprise, Hamnet and Sentimental Value are here in my heart. Yeah, I can't stop talking about them. But I really loved One Battle and House of Dynamite. Those are just, and I know those all four sound very, very different, but they're all brilliant and they're all so strong in their own way. And so I really think those four are going to go the distance. I think there's a lot to chew on in each of them and a lot to contend for. So excited to, keep talking about them.
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be a lot more to talk about. The New York Film Festival's coming up, a lot of other festivals after that, and we'll start seeing these films as they roll out into general release, so audiences can really see them. I'm seeing One Battle this weekend, so I'm excited and we'll have a big discussion about that next week when it opens in theaters. So definitely stay tuned for that. That'll be a fun deep dive into that Paul Thomas Anderson.
And I will leave you with one question: drama or comedy for One Battle?
Let's add it to the list, Mia. That's going to be on our list of topics.
Okay. I have
Stay tuned.
Thoughts. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today. Definitely keep an eye out for our awards magnet, One Battle After Another talk next week. Keep an eye out on Gold Derby for all the latest analysis, news, stories, features, interviews. There's a lot to talk about. Please send us your thoughts, questions, comments, voicemails to awardsmagnet@goldderby.com so we can answer your questions on a future mailbag episode. And until then, we'll see you at the movies. Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening to Awards Magnet, Gold Derby podcast. Like what you heard? Leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Awards Magnet is produced by Andrew Merrill. Our logo is designed by Chelsea Sakura. Please like and subscribe to stay on top of all the awards news and email us at awardsmagnet@goldderby.com.